Stay home for Labour, isolate in solidarity. Let's get together on Zoom, see into people's bedrooms. We're all voyeurs for free. Stay home for Labour, with Crispin as your MC. Get used to the smell of your fragrant hand gel, hands like an ancient mummy. I said stay home for Labour, wave your toilet rolls in the air real quick. Have a laugh, have a sup, keep your spirits up, cause when this is all over, we've got some arses to kick. I said stay home for later.
Hello and welcome to Stay Home for Labour, and I'm your host Crispin Flintoff, and we have a very busy show today. Our special guest today is Ken Loach, and he's in the room, as I can see. And but before we start, we're talking to Ken. Obviously, there's been a lot of events going on in America that have been quite shocking to see, and have also affected badly over here as well. So, what are you know, we're really thinking about everyone in America who's going through all this stress and Black Lives Matter. And our poet from an earlier episode of Stay Home for Labour, Mark, Mr. T. Thompson, has kindly sent in a poem just for the show. So I'm just going to play that to everyone now.
Rest in peace, George Floyd. They say the Greeks have lost their marbles. Well, now they want them back. But it seems looting is only criminal when those looting are poor or black. And according to those who claim to be not all that far right, murder is only murder if you ain't a cop that's white. Yeah, they can kneel upon your jugular and not offend their mates. But to kneel sporting an afro can cause heated debates about respect for your country that can't respect my kin. Oh, it's the land of the free unless you have black skin. So how can property be safe when the populace are not? When a brother cannot run without the fear of being shot by those whose fucking job it was to protect and watch their backs against aggressors and the terrors of the white supremacist attacks? But how can they protect us as they scope us in their sights? How can they hope to serve us as they disregard our rights? The bricks and mortar are replaceable, windows can be reglazed, but no earthbound soul can redraw the life that's been erased. So I'm sorry for your losses, but I just can't count their cost. I'm far too busy writing eulogies for the loved ones we have lost. They say the Greeks have lost their marbles, but now they want them back. And it seems looting is only criminal when the looters are poor or black. Black lives matter.
Yeah, so I'd like to thank Mark, Mr. T, for sending that in. So, Ken, are you there, Ken? I'm trying to unmute you. Can't seem to unmute. Oh, there you are, Ken.
Yeah.
That's you said you had a slight problem with this Zoom stuff, but we've got there in the end.
We did.
So what's your what do you think is going on in America? How do you think this is going to play out? These riots and the way that Trump's going on, it's like he's asking for more trouble, really, isn't it? It's not going to.
Yes, I don't know. I can't judge it. I don't know American
well, I mean, apart from what I read in the press and see the images, it's horrific. And he's a shallow man, but a kind of clever man, really, Trump, and malicious and malevolent. And but what tricks he will pull, I don't know. I mean, the far right is full of tricks. I mean, they're clever, but they have no wisdom. And who can tell what he'll do? And but I hope the anger, the righteous anger, is channeled into constructive paths. And the same here, the same across the world. It needs to become political, and not destructive. And of course, he will be happy for it to provoke it to be destructive, because then it gives him an excuse to be more brutal. Right. So it's politically astute to keep the anger fired up, but determined to give it a political expression.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty terrible what's going on all over the world with the coronavirus, and then this on top of it. So it's a pretty difficult situation we're in. And we're going to do a program about it next week, I think, as well. So we'll keep this issue going. But the show, we're really pleased that you've come on the show today. And we wanted to. I mean, I didn't tell when I contacted your office, I said, could you come on the show? And then they said, what's it about? And I said, well, it's about politics. But then actually what I wanted to do was celebrate all your work that you've done down the years. Because last week when you came on to speak to Jeremy Corbyn, you seemed to imply that you might not be doing many more films. And I found that very sad. But I also thought, well, why don't we celebrate what you've done? So I sent an email out to everyone asking them to send in films of their telling us what their favourite Ken Loach film was, and I've got loads of replies to it, and I think this might interest you. So I'm going to play some people's response to what their favourite Ken Loach film has been, and I'm going to start.
The best Ken Loach film I've seen, and I haven't seen them all, is Kes. I watched it the first time at school, read the book, I was mesmerised by it, the grim reality, the grittiness of it. I think they used real actors in some of the scenes. It was funny, it was sad, it had pathos. I mean, the pit life, the brutality, even of his parents and his brother, it kind of shocked me. But I think the highlight for me was Brian Glover and the football scene at school, the PE game. It stayed with me the rest of my life. How many of my teachers, my PE teachers, were like that? I think they must have watched that film, decided, I want to be a PE teacher just like that. Absolutely hilarious, but at the same time, a really grim and gritty, brutal film.
Films like Sweet 16, Angel's Share, Kes taught me I could trust my own eyes. Films like Days of Hope, Bread and Roses taught me that what my grandparents were saying, what my parents were saying, was actually the truth. And there was a contradiction between what people in my community said and what people in the media and the education system said. And your films reinforced that contradiction and taught me to ask why. Why? So thank you, Ken. Thank you.
One night, sometime early in the 1980s, I came across Poor Cow on TV. Having been born in 1966, the year of Cathy Come Home, I was always very aware of how pivotal the decade had been in terms of its new permissiveness, birth control, its fashion and music, its optimism, and its sense of anything being possible, especially for the young. Watching the film, I realised that these new freedoms and hopes had all but evaded people like Joy, the central character. It seemed to me that Joy was still bound by the conventions of the previous grey era. Having a child dependent on her, she was very much beholden to the patriarchy, be it an abusive criminal husband or the men who leered at the photos she was paid a pittance to pose for. It was the first time I've been forced to consider how many in society, purely through circumstance, will always be left behind while others are permitted to grow and thrive. Since then, I've become familiar with more of your work. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Loach, for always being on the side of the underdog.
The work that you've done over many years, the films that you've directed and made, have been a great inspiration to many people. My favourite film of all is Kes, and I remember a comrade once saying to me he'd watched it 6 times before he realised it wasn't a documentary. When you looked at the sitcoms at the time with like Wendy Craig and a family of 4 living in this huge house, it was just fantasy. You know, we were used to living in terrace 2 up, 2 downs, council houses or pit houses, and Kes was like real life to us. It brought a lot of things home. Also The Navigators, obviously coming from the rail industry, and work that you put into that was fantastic. Brought some home truths. The Price of Coal, many of them. Love and solidarity from myself and Nikki. Always, Ken. Solidarity, comrade.
I think it's fantastic tonight's show has been dedicated to Ken Loach, an amazing film director, and it's probably only Ken Loach that could have ever thought of putting Castro, Gandhi and Eric Cantona into a sentence. Looking for Eric, a class film from a class director.
Hi Ken, Thelma Walker here. My favourite film of yours was I, Daniel Blake, but in particular the food bank scene, where that desperate young mum is so starving, she opens a tin of beans and stuffs the cold beans in her mouth because she's so desperate. And the scene is just epitomises somebody's desperation and degradation. And I just cried out loud in the cinema when I saw that scene, and especially because I've been ahead of a Sure Start Centre and seen so many young parents so desperate, especially as a result of austerity and 10 years of cuts from this Tory government. And so I want to say thank you for pricking the conscience of our country and of this government, and for the work that you do when I know you could earn many millions more, but you don't, because you're a good socialist and because you want people to be held to account in this government and you want a fair and more equal society. So I hope you're working on your next film, and thanks for all you do, Ken.
Hiya, Ken. I hope you're well. Funny little thing happened after I'd done them couple of movies for you. I remember your last words to me. Well, Rick, you're on your way now to Hollywood. Well, unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. It was Holyhead I ended up in, Ken, in the nursing home and everything, you know. And they keep playing my old movies, and I say, oh, that's so-and-so, and that's so-and-so, and not like that. Mind you, most of them are in America now. They've all done well except me, but no fault of your own, Ken. I mean, you've done your best, Ken, but I mean, you've done your best, and that's all I can say. Listen, Loachy, you're the bee's knees, kid. You're number one. God bless you, lad.
Well, there's just a few people. I mean, there were so many clips. You won't believe how many people were sending these in. But I want to selfishly. I had a conversation with you a couple of years ago about a Channel 4 documentary you made in the 80s called The Red and the Blue. And I asked you if you could find a copy of it, and you didn't seem to know where to get a copy of it. But someone has actually put it on YouTube, and so I was really pleased to see it there. And and it reminded me of that film. Made me think about the Labour Party in an affectionate way because of the way you directed the film, where you showed Labour activists going out in Blackpool and enjoying themselves, having fish and chips, and then talking very seriously about deep political issues. And I was a teenager. I wasn't probably about 13 at the time, and I just remember thinking, this looks really exciting. This politics thing. You made politics look exciting in a way that, you know, later Labour Party, you know, people like Tony Blair kind of failed to do. And I've got a clip of it that I don't know if you've seen it for a while, but there's the main clip that everyone loves from this film, because I've put it out on social media and shared it. is where Neil Kinnock is in a Tribune meeting with Dennis Skinner, and I'm going to share that clip so everyone can see it, and you can see it again. This really shows to me how politics has become.
Organisation can replace politics. The disciplined approach of politics can replace politics itself.
Oh.
It can't. Because it produces... The illusion of the early 80s, said Hobsbawm, is that organisation can replace politics. The disciplined approach of politics can replace politics itself. It can't. It won't. Because it produces hit lists. And let me give you a warning about hit lists. Anybody of left or right. Well, you see, I've got this almost unique good fortune. I was on just about everybody's hit list and I got elected.
It says here, hit list, answer Neil Kinnock. Well, Neil and everybody, some of us have been on hit lists all his lives. You're always on somebody's. Apart from them that ride up the middle of the road all the time, I don't know, I suppose this Mr. Hobsbawm's one. Is that his name? I mean, whose hit list is he on? Hey? I mean, when I think about him, and I've not read article, but I don't need to know what to do. I'm not just earnest, Neil. Cold and calculating. Not for any short-term advantage. Oh, no. Oh, I know the road ahead. And it's right down that left wing, and you mustn't veer at all. You've got to expect them. You've got to be able to answer the problems when they're thrown at you. Be big enough, don't worry about them. God almighty. Fancy an MP being worried about being on the hit list. 14,000 quid a year and on a hit list? It's not possible, is it? No! Of course it isn't. All party trips abroad. There's one for every country in the world. I've got them all here. I haven't got time to go through them. Bahamas in the winter. Always in the winter, always between those... in the equatorial zone between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. They always travel there. They never go on a fact-finding mission to Greenland in the winter, and they must be facts to find. Conflict continues. So we don't run away from it. We understand it. And I understand it as well as any, because I saw it in its harshest terms when I was down the pit in Derbyshire. And when I'm worried about somebody stabbing me in the back in those plush corridors of the House of Commons, I think about those 3-foot seams, the hacking away, the injuries, the mauling, the class conflict that should sustain us all when we get down there. We're lucky to be able to have that opportunity to be on some tin pot parliamentary hit list.
I mean, what an amazing clip. I mean, I'd never heard of Dennis Skinner before I saw that film, and the way that you made politics seem so exciting. I mean, that's really important at this time. I mean, people are turned off politics, but it isn't often presented in a way of being exciting like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, they had Kinnock the opportunist, and Skinner put him in his place, and he did it brilliantly with humour, made Kinnock look ridiculous, and he, shortly after that, of course, Kinnock and Hattersley stood back while the miners were left on their own, not on the many great support from the grassroots, of course, but from the leadership of the Labour Party, nothing. The leadership of most of the trade unions, nothing. And that was the pivotal event, really, from in the post-war industrial period. That was a pivotal event, because after the miners lost, the floodgates were open for the whole neoliberal attacks. Sadly, the leadership, well, had no intention of listening to the left and people like Dennis Skinner, who was brilliant. But you find the same battles over and over again, and we need people who spring from that background, you know, with that eloquence, with that sense of humour, with that clarity of class struggle, and we have it now. You know, goodness me. I must just add, it was really lovely to see, you know, for everyone to say those things at the beginning, and I have to say, you know, I'm really one of a little group, and Paul Lavitt has been writing scripts, and before him, Jim Allen and Barry Hines, who wrote Ket, and Nell Dunn, who did Paul Cow, and all of them, and you know, so it's absolutely a collective, and I mean, I'm lucky to be here and hear what's said. But the best thing was seeing Mickey Tomlinson in his best vest. Well, I mean, that's worth the price of admission. Crispin, isn't it, really? You know, on its own, really. I mean, how elegant.
Well, it's not. I mean, I'm sorry to say, Ken, that because I get the feeling that you're not really interested in blowing your own trumpet, and I love that about you. It's similar to Jeremy last week. He didn't want to acknowledge what he's done, but there's another clip. I've got another clip for you. People have been sending these in, and I've got another clip for you. So I'm going to play this one. This time I'll try and remember to do it the right way. Yeah.
You were an impact from the start, and it was great to see you galvanised an area of television which was pretty good anyway. I mean, television docudramas at the time weren't too bad, Z-cars, all that sort of stuff. It was good stuff. But the Cathy Come Home experience, which everybody rightly refers to as a turning point and a starting point, it seems to be, in your real career. Well, real career, what the hell? Was something else. And since then, what I've really admired more than anything is the steadiness of vision. You've just gone for it again and again and again, and built up this huge body of work, portraying our society in areas that very few people want to go into, but doing it with good actors, good scripts, good cameramen. Extraordinary, enviably admirable. So, you're a great man in my life, Ken.
Hello, Ken. I'm Nina Davis, and I'm speaking to you now from Spain, where I've lived for 15 years. And Land and Freedom is one of my favourite films, always has been, and I brought it with me when we moved here, and I've shown it to a couple of meetings. Also, The Wind That Shakes the Barley, I think is an amazing film. And I wanted to say that our little cinema here in the town where I live, Antonio, the man who runs it, is a real filmophile, and he is such a fan of your films. And so we always get the newest Ken Loach films quite soon in the original English version, but with Spanish subtitles. And I've bought quite a few DVD copies of Sorry We Missed You, because I think it shows to the British people who live here what life is like for the precariat in Britain. I just don't think they have any idea, and that film just really, really hits the spot.
What I love about My Name Is Joe is we get to see the devastation of Joe's addiction and alcoholism, but we also, behind that, we know that there was once a very vibrant and confident and possibly, you know, great, you know, with the football thing, a great community leader and stuff like that. And I saw a lot of Joe's, a lot, personally. For me, it's seeing just how wonderfully placed Joe would have been in his community and what happens when those communities are obliterated. It's a magnificent documentation of reality, filmic reality. But and what I have to do is I have to really gear myself up to watch. I can't just watch it. I have to prepare myself to watch. My Name is Joe. Magnificent piece of work.
Favourite film, if I had to choose one, which I'm going to do, is Kes. And I think as a young kid, I remember seeing the poster with the kid sticking two fingers up, thinking it was really rude. And do you want to hear me show this story? Because I was fortunate enough to be in a Ken Loach film back in the day, we were filming Lucky for Eric. And when you go for your dinner, you go on the bus type thing, you know, to sit down. And Ken was there. And I said to him, and this made me feel really, really old, because I turned to Ken and said, "Hi Ken, you alright? What were you doing last night?" And he went, "I was at," and he said his name, I can't remember the name of the lad that played Kes, but he said, "I was at his 50th birthday party." I thought, bloody hell. What a top bloke, top body of work. And it's about time somebody paid a massive tribute to the man. I'd say a knighthood, but knowing Ken would probably turn it down.
I would highly recommend Raining Stones. The film starts very, very funny. I mean, the opening sequence where Ricky Tomlinson, who plays a character called Tommy, and the main protagonist try to steal a sheep in order to sell the sheep around the pubs, cut up into the various bits that you cut up a sheep into to make money out of it. And of course that all goes wrong. You get drawn into this really quite simple story, and it's actually one of the strengths of Ken Loach, really, is to tell a simple story which has a political message. Find the human, the observation of basic humanity, which shows the cruelty of the system that we live under.
Ken is a good friend of mine. He's one of the finest socialists I've met, and he's provided me with advice and support throughout the years. In any campaign, when you need him, he's always there in absolute solidarity. That's what we all love about him. On my favourite films, well, there's so many of them, and Ken came down to my constituency. We showed Cathy Come Home a couple of years ago to a packed audience to talk about housing crisis that we now face. But actually my favourite is most probably the series of 4 films in the Days of Hope series. Takes a family from the First World War right through to the general strike, and is a good class analysis of how our society operated then and actually now as well. I'm hoping to convene the plan that we had before to hold a Ken Loach Film Festival in my constituency, and when the lockdown's over, I'll be working to organise that.
Well, there you go. A few more.
Yeah, me, Crispin. It's too much of it. It's overwhelming. I mean, it's really nice to see friends, John and Melvyn and friend from Looking for Eric. It's very touching, and people are very generous. But it's always a question of what you do next, really, and you can't look back. Now, it's nice of John to remember Days of Hope, because that was again very contentious when we did it at the BBC in the early 70s, mid 70s. It was shown, and they showed it once, and they wouldn't show it again. Even now, when they're going through all the old repeats from the start of the BBC, they won't show Days of Hope again, and it's extraordinary. But written by Jim Allen, who was a great writer, as all the writers I've worked with and have been. And Jim learnt his politics from, again, he was a miner, he was a building worker. He was a dock worker, and he knew his politics from the front line. And he wrote dialogue of people in struggle brilliantly. And I think we tried to capture that in the 4 films.
So he worked on Coronation Street, didn't he?
He worked on Coronation Street briefly, and just before we knew him, and He said he got fed up with it, so he wrote an episode where all the stars from Coronation Street went to Blackpool in a charabanc, and then on the way back fell off a cliff and killed themselves. So the producer said, "I don't think you want to work on this show again, do you?" And anyway, Tony Garnett, who I was working with, met him, producer, and I met him through Tony, and we had I was an extraordinary man. But I said that the writers are the great heroes, really, that I've worked with. And worked with now is amazing.
But some of the people we got some clips from there, like Smug Roberts. You know, some people are not accomplished actors. They may have been stand-up comedians or working somewhere else. You seem to be able to get the best out of people who aren't necessarily used to being under being filmed generally. What's the secret of that?
Well, it's very simple. I mean, Smug's a great character and very funny and has a generosity about him. And we had a group of comedians and one or two actors like John Henshaw, and of course Eric himself, Justin Morehouse, and a lot of Manchester comics. And it was, from the moment they arrived in the morning at 8 o'clock and left about 6 o'clock or whatever, the place was a riot. And they drove it. I mean, I just had to keep them out of trouble. No, they were very good. But I think if you put people in a situation where they feel comfortable, where they feel confident, where they know they're valued, and you work so that you can film it in a way that you can always get the best out of it, and draw them out, and they're often revealing things that was mainly a comedy, but often revealing things that people don't realise they're revealing actually. But in revealing themselves, they reveal the characters in the film. They reveal deep moments, profound moments, and it's those revelations that can bring the story to life in a way that should have a spontaneity and a sense of truth about them, that transcends the normal acting that you rehearse, you go through it, you do your best. But if you can find moments that have a sense of that's just happened in front of your eyes, never happened again. That sense of surprise, that's the pure gold, really.
So, I saw an interview with you a few years ago where you talked about how you were sort of influenced a bit by the social realism of the sort of Saturday night, Sunday morning type films then that came out, and the kitchen sink ones they talked about. And they were there was a lot of realism in there, but you sort of taken it much further. I mean, if I looked at Saturday night and Sunday morning, it looks very stylized now. Whereas I suppose at the time it was not quite as much as Rattigan or some kind of Noel Coward drama. But you've kind of moved it further to this, like Tosh was saying, this sort of, someone said they thought it was a documentary. They'd seen it 6 times and they thought it was a documentary. I mean, and your influence has been great because there's so many other directors now who have this kind of obsession with making it almost look like a documentary. So, I mean, was that your intention, or did you just?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, people use the word documentary, but of course, in a real documentary, you're filming something you have no control over, and the way we make a film is it is controlled. I mean, it's a film. You set up the shots, but you have to set them up in such a way that the camera's like an observer, so that you put the camera in the room where maybe if you were just a sympathetic observer, you would just be there and watching it, engaging with what's happening, not pushing yourself forward, not being demonstrative, not trying to show off. So it's like the camera's like a human eye. And the range of lenses is like a human eye. So it wouldn't be ultra wide, which is like, you know, the sort you get when you're looking at the goldfish bowl, or a very long lens the human eye couldn't achieve. So it should seem like that, and it's about oh, it's so difficult to describe. I mean, it's a bit like cooking, you know, and you got different pots on the hob, and they're all, you have to make certain that that's the cast and or the people in the film. And you have to make certain they're all just bubbling at the right moment. And when you feel someone is maybe going to be very emotional, then you have to make certain you're on the right shot for that. You know, because the nightmare is you do a scene that is like the food bank scene that you know, the very kind woman spoke about.
Yeah.
If you and Haley was lovely in that, but Haley was the only one in that scene who knew what was going to happen. No one else knew. Well, I knew, and obviously the cameraman knew. But of the people in the film, she was the only one who knew. And so I didn't know quite what was going to happen, but I had to arrange the furniture and arrange the shots in such a way that when the person went to her assistant, there was only one place she could sit, and there wouldn't be anybody between us. Between the camera and Haley.
Okay.
Because, you know, the worst thing would be you spring the surprise and then somebody blocks the shot and you've lost the one moment of magic that you've created. So it's sort of choreographing it in a way that people don't quite realize is happening. So the simple thing to do is the right thing to do.
So like your experience has shown you there's certain things like you just said about not being blocked on a shot. So through your experience, you've known how important it is to get things just right to prepare for that magic shot. I'm going to move on to another. It's just because we've only got an hour. I mean, we've gone forever, but I don't want to put you on this too long. But we've got another person who's sent in a clip for you, and they can't be here tonight. So there's a message from.
Hi Ken, I'm almost lost for words in admiration for your work. You spent a lifetime making films that motivate, that inspire, that inform people. But you're also very good at filming television in popular culture sense. I remember as a kid watching Z Cars. I really loved it actually. You know, those guys zipping about in Ford Zephyrs and all this kind of stuff. It was really good. It was only years later I discovered that you were part of that team. It was gritty, it was real life, and it was about working class communities and the way in which they were treated and the way in which the police, who were also from those communities, behaved towards them. Your filmmaking is in the great tradition of super realism in filmmaking. I'm thinking of the great filmmakers like Satyajit Ray from India, like Eisenstein from Russia and his amazing film, particularly Battleship Potemkin, and later on the films that he made during the Second World War, Ivan the Terrible, for example. I'm also thinking of those others that have found it very difficult to get their films made and their voices heard. What you've done is opened up and liberated people to give them that chance. And having once done a bit of a film with you in Sheffield, I then really appreciated what your methods are. You sat us all down, a lot of people in a community centre, and we had a long chat, and it was really good. But what you were doing was making them relax and understand and talk about their lives, and that's what our film became about. So I want to thank you for so much that you've done and so much personal support and friendship you've given to me personally and to our movement collectively, and of course the peace movement and the anti-war movement and so much else in this country. When I was asked to do this piece, Crispin said to me he'd like me to mention a few of your films that I really enjoyed. Well, I could mention lots, but I'd like to go with three, if I may. The first is Cathy Come Home, because it had such an impression on me as a kid, watching it on television. I understood a whole lot more about the cruelty, and it's still there in our housing system, sadly, just as relevant today as it was then. And we wanted to change that in the elections of 17 and 19. And by God, we're going to make sure we do change it when we get that chance. Other great films you've made, The Wind That Shakes the Barley, taught us so much about history, taught us so much about the role of ordinary people doing extraordinary things at unusual and historic times. And one of your most recent ones, I, Daniel Blake, you very kindly invited me to the opening night of I, Daniel Blake. What was great was you gave priority to all those people that were claimants on universal credit to get priority to come in the cinema, get the best seats on the front row, and others were then asked to sit elsewhere. What a fantastic gesture. Ken, thank you for all that you've done for our movement, but all that you will do with your next film and all the other things that we've often talked about. Ken, thanks.
Oh, wow. Crispin.
So you've been propositioned. Are you going to do another? Are you going to be doing more films then, Ken?
Crispin, look, I have to say, the importance of what Jeremy and John have done, I mean, is cannot be exaggerated. And I think what it is, and why, because, you know, obviously we're friends and I value their friendship enormously, and I'm very proud to be their friends, but to try to see it in perspective, what they've given us a sense that change is possible. And when they became elected to lead the Labour Party, there was this, people, I think, across the country felt, right, we can really make changes. And of course, we underestimated the power of the right wing in the Labour Party, their determination to destroy that leadership. But the vision is there. And they talk about the current leadership and they use the word forensic, you know, and maybe that's fine, forensic's good. But it's very inadequate in itself, because people need to have a sense of the land and the society they could live in, they could create, that people could work without having to work 12, 14-hour days to get the barest minimum wage. They could work without fearing the sack. We could find houses, people could live in a decent house and somewhere decent to live. The regions don't need to be neglected. And we can even work to end or to sustain the planet together and tackle climate change. And that sense of vision, and what they did also was to tie it to specific political ideas to do with common ownership, to do with democratic control, to do with planning how we live and planning that no one is left behind. So it's a vision, but it's tied to specific political objectives and a coherent economic system. Now that's what we've got to hang on to, and we've got to organise around. You know, it's reflected in when I joined the Labour Party back in the 1960s, and I'm sure when many of the older comrades here joined, on the back of the membership card, it said that that the aim, the old clause 4, was that workers by hand and by brain would receive the full fruits of their industry through common ownership, the most very form of common ownership and democratic control. And that was made very tangible by Jeremy and by John. And they were just beginning. And I think that obviously, you know, things went wrong in different ways, but that vision is really important. We've got to hang on to that and not get dragged down the road, represented by Kinnock in that earlier clip, of just being the Tories second 11, just being slightly to the left of the Tories. And people be so fed up of Johnson and his ludicrous, incompetent bunch that they'll vote for anything. We've got to hang on to that vision, you know, and that's the great gift, I think, that Jeremy and John have given us, and I hope they're still giving their fighting for us.
Your film, The Spirit of 45, it's that word spirit, to me is very important, the spirit of Dennis Skinner, the spirit of the films that you make, which encourage people to feel that they can do something about injustice, and that they can, their anger can be channeled into some way, of creatively or in the party. I mean, that's the key, and that's what we're trying to do with this show, not just tonight, but all the time. We just want to keep the spirit there, because there is a big spirit that we saw coming out in 2015 and in 2016 and in 2017. I mean, we were flourishing for those 3 years, and it kind of got hijacked by Brexit and the arguments within the party, and people sabotaging it, obviously, from the General Secretary's office or whatever. I mean, I don't want to say anything I could get in trouble with, but
no, but I think, Crispin, I think we've not got to underestimate the determination of people within the Labour movement to destroy the real path to a socialist society, which is the only way that people can live in dignity and security, and enjoy good education, enjoy good health. It's the determination of that right wing to keep the market central to our economy. And as long as they do that, we'll have 0 hours, and we'll have bogus self-employment, and we'll have people working all hours of the day or night just to put a crust on the table, and we'll have homelessness, and all the rest. And we'll have some regions with no decent jobs and left abandoned. Because that's what the market does. We've lived with it now since the welfare state was taken apart by Thatcher. So we know what it does. But the determination within the right wing of the Labour movement to destroy our progress, we mustn't underestimate it, because we did, and then that's why we lost. But the spirit is there, as you said. The spirit's been there, and my God, we got to fight for it.
Well, I think with the leaks and what we've had from the leaks, I think we're now much more aware of how, what's going on in the background, what they're plotting, and the sort of our kind of idealism about humanity. We should maybe check that a little bit sometimes. Now, I'm going to I've got so many people have sent these videos in. They're going to kill me if I don't show them. I get the feeling that you're not all that keen on these tributes to you, but I'm afraid, Ken, that I can't get. I'll be lynched if I don't show them. So, I have to keep going. And also we're running a bit late. So anyway.
Hi Ken, my name's Isaac. I'm 13 and I have Asperger's syndrome and epilepsy and neuro problems. And I'm just here to say your film I, Daniel Blake had truly moved me in so many different ways. For one reason, it is just truly relatable, because I am one of those in the 2/3 who have been told to be written off, but I'm not going to be. As well, I've seen my mum fill in forms for my appeal to high school and fill in forms for benefits for me. And she's literally starved herself just so I can eat. And she's been doing everything just so I could have the best life I could have. So it's both inspirational, your film, but at the same time, painful. So I've just got one thing to say. Thank you, Ken. Thank you for all your films.
I started work as a teacher in 1996, I believe, and teaching the book Kes, and then showing your film to children, some of whom perhaps had similar backgrounds and similar experiences to Billy Casper. I think it gave it a reality, and I think it allowed a lot of young people to connect. And even though obviously there's no happy ending in that book, even so, seeing your life reflected, I think it meant a lot to a lot of children that I taught, and it meant a lot to me. Thank you.
I like the spirit of 45 because it shows the vital importance of the NHS, the welfare state, to protect people who generally cannot work or are in between jobs. the importance of social housing, and the contrast as to how Britain was before these vital institutions were established.
Days of Hope, the trilogy that was broadcast by the BBC way back. Absolutely exceptional cinematography. A great script by Jim Allen, screenplay. Excellent direction by Ken. And of course, Tony Garnett producing. What a combination. It's a winner. Great messages. Absolutely great messages. Especially if anybody had illusions that the Labour Party was going to stand by the forces of Labour against capital. But exceptional film. It was almost in parts, especially where there were pictures of big meetings and rallies. It was like watching newsreel film. Superb production value, superb direction, an amazing cast of actors. Well, unbeatable. Oh, and didn't it kick up a storm with the Conservatives?
My favourite film of Ken's is The Golden Vision. It's a really great film. It's evocative of the time and place, Liverpool in the 60s. The ensemble cast is great. They speak with a really authoritative, credible, working class voice. It also kind of deals with really important issues around the sort of routine misogyny of some of the men. And the power of the employers in the workplace when the Everton fans get their charabanc to go to the away game. And of course, that's the other thing about it. It demonstrates, John, show the badge. It demonstrates that great football club as well.
My favourite Ken Loach film is Land and Freedom. Not only is it beautiful and tender like all of Loach's films, but it also goes a long way in showing that you should always be guided by your morals and guided by what is right. And it's one of many of Ken's films, along with Mike Leigh and others, that politicised me as a young working class lad, and sees me still an active member of the Labour Party and a proud socialist. So thank you, Ken.
Hello, I'm a mystery contributor to this. Ken Loach's films, he's made some brilliant ones. Some of my favourite have been The Wind That Shakes the Barley and of course Kes. But the one that stands out for me is I, Daniel Blake. And the reason being, that actor, Dave Johns, who played the part of I, Daniel Blake, he was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I think that him, Dave Johns, saved Ken Loach's career.
He's not good at disguising himself, is Dave.
So that was the final of the clips from that we sent in. More were sent in, but I couldn't fit them all in. So anyone watching, I'm sorry, but I couldn't fit any more in.
I was sorry Dave Johns didn't take his mask off at the end, really, and reveal the true man behind this.
I know. I was hoping he'd do the same, but then I thought maybe it's funnier that. I mean, we all probably know.
No, it was Dave. He was a great man, a lovely man, and I'm very pleased that the other friends spoke about The Golden Vision, because that was written by Neville Smith, who again a great writer. And we made 2 films together, which I cherish the memory of, and Neville's a good pal. And to say to the young man, was it Isaac at the beginning, and his mum, what a mum he's got, you know, and how many mothers are there, and dads too, who sacrifice everything for their kids, but they shouldn't be in that position. They really shouldn't be in that position. I mean, people need, when they're vulnerable, they need help, you know. And what kind of world do we live in where that help isn't given? That's what we pay our taxes for. And it should make us angry make us angry on his behalf. He was a really nice lad, and I'm sure his mum's very proud of him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the situation at the moment with the country in this coronavirus lockdown. I mean, we did a show on Saturday about the food, the sort of poverty, the food poverty at the moment is unbelievable. The demand for food banks has gone through the roof. They can't seem to cope with this demand. And I'm pretty ashamed to say the Labour Party hasn't said anything about it. It's going to get worse when people who've been furloughed lose their jobs, and it's unmanageable.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there are so many open goals the current leadership is missing. I mean, absolutely, the food poverty is a huge issue. Where's that being? Where the Tories being nailed on that? Where they're being nailed on the rundown of the NHS? You know, the privatisation through outsourcing to private companies, where people are employed on 0 hours. The wage freeze to the hospital staff, nurses, and others, their wages were frozen for years. You know, and suddenly the Tories think they can put that right by clapping on a Thursday night. You know, I mean, have we no memory? And why isn't that being pointed out? The care service, there was in the Labour manifesto, there was a call for a national care service, exactly what's needed, so that it isn't left to agencies to employ people on 0 hours. You know, a national care service with the status of the National Health Service is what's needed. And we should be proclaiming that. You know, got wonderful ideas, a great programme that Jeremy and John put together with others. We should be proclaiming that because people are ready to hear it now.
Yeah.
Knowing what they've gone through. We've got big ideas. That's what we should be hearing that every night on that Labour front bench. Where are they?
Well, we're not hearing very much, so it's quite depressing to see that. But I suppose we've been there before with some Labour leadership, so we can always get back to maybe the old style of Corbyn. We can always get another bring him back in or something.
It's a struggle, Crispin. It's a struggle. But they say the great thing Jeremy and John have left us with is that programme, those ideas, and knowing that they're essential. So, and a large Labour Party membership that is still with them, I think, in many respects. So a big struggle, but you know, there's certainly hope there. We have to stay. We have to stay. And we have to win it again.
We have to keep the members who were so energised. We have to keep them in, and we have to keep them hopeful that we can make a difference and not be led by kind of how do you put it, tactful, not saying much and being razor whatever it is I don't know what he's supposed to do. I don't believe all this stuff about PMQs. To me, doesn't really mean much at all to most people, and I don't see that as a centre of everything.
No, it's good to do well. You know, it's good to do well. I mean, fair play. You know, Keir Starmer's done well, but he's a lawyer. You know, you'd expect it, but that's good. You know, don't want to underestimate that. But the big question is, what are the big ideas that people need? You know, it's not a question of an adventure. It's a question of a necessity, and we were beginning to formulate those, and they're beginning to become popular. So we have to do that because it's a necessity. It's not a choice.
Well, I know we're running late. So what I thought, we're running a bit late. So I'm not going to put any. I promise you, there'll no more videos of tributes. But I have got our resident comedians who have who've agreed to do stuff tonight. So maybe you could have a quick word with them. We've got Boris on the bog here. Boris.
Muted me. You've unmuted me. Hello, Ken. I'm waving at you from Uxbridge. Nice to see you. It's great. Some bad news to start with, folks. This week it's been announced that over 1 million people have lost their jobs since the end of March. But one piece of bad news is one of them wasn't Dominic Cummings. Yes, wish we could. I've been pretty depressed recently, Crispin. I have to tell you that. So I decided yesterday to go and cheer myself up. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll watch a Ken Loach film. I did. So what did I do? I got out on video that the film about the man who's fighting austerity, bureaucracy, and personal circumstances to make the best fist of it in hard times. I am, of course, talking about Boris Johnson. Yes. Well, come on, folks. I deserve a bit of support. I've had COVID-19, and you will know that whenever I go around the country, people say to me, "Oh, poor Boris, he's not fit to do the job." Let me get some support. And based on Ken's film, what I've got here, yes, I went to see my benefits advisor, having what's been in the film, and I asked the benefits advisor, I said, can I have 2 piles of PPE, please? And she said, no, we've run out. Come back a fortnight on Tuesday. So, then I said, the silly questions they ask you, honestly, Ken. They asked me, can you set an alarm? And I said, well, yes, I could. When people see me, they are alarmed, of course. And can you lift your hand so as if to put something in your pocket? And I said, well, of course I can. That's where I put the country every day. But finally, Ken, this is the one that got me, and I was watching this earlier. The question was, do I have any significant difficulties conveying a simple message to strangers? The answer is obviously yes. Yes, thank you, Wendy. You're applauding there. So, Ken, I'm relying on you to make a sequel, I, Boris Johnson 2, when we can put some of this right. And the reason I was turned down was I have more than 16 million in the bank. Ridiculous. Anyway,
thank you.
Here's to you, Ken. Thank you so much. I've changed sides.
Don, are you there?
Yeah, hi, Crispin. Hello, Ken. I also received some bad news today, Crispin. Someone gave me a copy of the Daily Mail. I want to talk about one of my favourite Ken Loach films, which is Sorry We Missed You, which is about the precarious nature of zero-hour contracts. Now, don't judge me. I did a corporate gig for Wetherspoons who put their employees on those certain contracts. Now, I don't think I'll be asked back to do a gig for Wetherspoons, because I started with the joke, a zero-hour contract employee walks into the bar, to which the barman says, sorry, you're not needed in the joke this week. Well, with recent events in America, we're here today to celebrate Ken Loach films, but there's probably some idiot out there saying, Ken Loach films? Surely all movies matter.
Brilliant.
I want to talk about Ken Loach film I'm going to watch straight tonight after this, which looks really good, and that is I Fond Kiss. It's about a Catholic woman, Irish, who falls in love with a Pakistani man, and their families would disagree with it. And as a British Asian man, this is something that I can relate to. And don't judge me on this either, but a few years ago, I tried to stop my sister dating someone from a different background. I wasn't proud of it, but Crispin, I didn't want the rest of the world to know that my sister was dating a Tory. And one more thing. One thing I can relate to the film, because I've got learning difficulties, is that that guy in the film, the Muslim guy in the film, didn't want to have a traditional South Asian marriage. Now, my traditional Indian parents want me to go down this route. But as I said, I've got dyspraxia, which affects my organisation skills. I have a habit of turning up very late for events. So at best I can offer my proud Indian parents is a rearranged marriage. Enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ken.
Hey, Patrick, have you got anything to say to Ken?
Oh, yeah, happy birthday, Ken. Can I just say, Crispin?
It's not his birthday.
It's what?
It's not his birthday.
No, it's on the 17th of June.
This is almost his birth. Yes, it's 17th.
Really?
It is 17th of June.
Oh, well,
it's on Wikipedia.
About it, Crispin. I'm trying not to have him anymore.
Yeah, Ken, honestly, and thank you, Boris, for backing up. Ken, it's the 17th of June, because I know this, because my birthday is on the 23rd of June. Me and Ken are literally, we're the same age. We're 1 week apart. That is the only thing. You're Gemini and I'm Cancer. That is the only difference. And the amazing thing that I love about Ken, and this is the thing is, obviously Daniel Blake is up from near my neck of the woods, but what I love, and everyone's talked about this tonight, Ken, about the realism and the dialogues that we hear in your films. We've been watching loads of films recently over the lockdown, and you realise a lot of these films don't have it. There's no realism in them. There was a load of these films. One of them was, we were watching, it was about these couples living together, and And the amount of times I've heard this about half a dozen times, this phrase where the partner, she'll come in, and she'll say to a partner, go, can I just ask you something? And then there's a pause and the partner will go, yes, dear, fire away. And I thought, when has this ever happened in real life? We've been in lots. At no point has my partner ever even paused to say, can I ask you? She comes in, she goes, can I tell you something? Even before I can think about whether yes or not, she's telling me what it is. And then in this film, right, and we watched one film, it went, can I ask you something? And then there was a pause and the partner went, no, not just yet, dear. And I thought, when would that ever happen in real life? Could you imagine the murder rate would go through the roof? If you come in here and you say, no, I'm not just yet, dear, there'd be a pot and a pan going through the back of your head. There'd be a big funeral organised for you. And yet there was still another hour of this movie to go. And I thought, and these are all like, I'm not going to name the films, but they're all like transatlantic American movies. And then one we saw recently, and this was classic. You know, when you compare things to like what Ken's done with Daniel Blake and Looking for Eric and you know, all these great films where there's realism. There was one film we watched, and this shows where the movie industry is heavily towards middle class films. It never shows real working class life. We watched one movie recently, and it was about two people, a couple, and both under the age of 35. The lady, she was in her early 30s. She owned her own flat. She had a job. And I was thinking, who do you know who's under 35, owns their own flat, who lives on a flat? And then her partner was, he was in his 20s and he was at university, no debts, they were going out. I thought, who are these people? And then the film carried on. And then this was it was what? And
bank robbers, I should think.
Bank robbers, exactly. Boris has seen it. It was unbelievable, Boris. This is what happened. Then in the film, this was the whole film. And then for an hour and a half, the whole film, this was the whole moral of it, was that she was worried that because she was doing a career, worried that if she has children, right? She has children that if she doesn't have children, she's worried that a partner would leave her. And I thought, and me and my partner, we started talking about this. This is the most middle class film I've ever heard of. Where I grew up in a working class area, as soon as the girl or anyone was pregnant, the fella was vanished. He was gone. It was like literally, even if he was just going, oh, you're pregnant, I'm just going to nip up to the shop club and get some cigarettes, he wouldn't be seen again. And I thought, this is the whole thing. You never see reality in any of these movies today. And the last point, because I know we're running a bit late here.
Yeah, sorry.
Was
my fault.
No, it's not your fault, Crispin. It's not your fault. And I'm going to say this thing because we went, and it's a serious point, because there's a lot of it on social media, and you've talked about it already, was about the protest about Black Lives Matter. And we went on the protest today. We went to Hyde Park at 1 o'clock, me and Lily, my partner, we went there at 1 o'clock. And this just shows, and we were there for about 4 or 5 hours, and it shows what's happening in the British media. If you look at everything that's on there, they were saying it was, they focus on the fights and all that, and it wasn't. There was nothing. It was the most peaceful protest that put stuff up online. You can see it. And everyone's social distance. People were protesting. There was thousands of people, and everyone was 2 meters apart, and people had their face masks on. And anyway, I put the video up, and then loads of people had some negative comments literally in the last hour or two on social media about it, and they were saying, this is terrible, you shouldn't be going to these protests about this, you should be social distancing. And loads of people were positive, but the ones who were negative were all people, unfortunately, who were from a white privileged background. And this is exactly the point. You're talking about privilege here. The reason we can sit at home, people can sit at home and go, don't go out, you should be social distancing, you know, should be like this, is because you try and explain to Gianna Floyd, the 6-year-old daughter of George Floyd, who died, about social distancing when her father was killed, you know, just for no reason at all like that. So this is a serious point, is we've got to talk about privilege. And that's why, and I think John mentioned it about hashtag, you know, Black Lives Matter. And I think that's the most important thing today. Hopefully we'll do more about it on the weekend.
We'll do it. We're going to do a show next Wednesday on it.
Yeah, definitely. Really important.
Now I'm going to bring in Susie, because Susie, if I'm muted her and then muted her. Susie.
I'm muted. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. So have you got a message for Ken?
Oh, yes. 1 second. Jean, Mum, no, it's not him. It's Ken Loach, not Bill Roach. He collects Ken. Yeah, so don't bring in the Rover's Return people. Sorry. It's like the George Roy Hug thing all over again. I'm sorry about that. Hi, Ken. First of all, thanks, Patrick, because I saw your stuff on Twitter. Thanks for that. Yeah, I love Ken Loach, and I just want to say, if you do decide to do another film, I don't think you've done one set in Devon yet, with a Devonshire lady as the main person. Because I grew up in the streets of Plymouth, and I know you like to write about adversity and the vulnerable and the struggles. And I did a 6-month season at Butlins Minehead, so I know about struggles. In fact, I've got a picture of me. There's me. This is to show off my acting skills. I was in a red coat. There's me and Noddy, and I'm smiling, the Butlins smile, but I am dead inside. But I did a BTEC. I've done a BTEC, so I have got credentials. And there's a picture of me in the Amdram. I'm playing Biddy in Great Expectations. There I am. Can you see the acting? I'm teaching Pip how to read. And I look really interested, did I? I look like, but in reality, I couldn't give a toss. I'm actually thinking about what to have for tea. So there's just a little bit of my range. No, seriously, I have got the credentials. I've been through hardships. I think you should do a film that's set in some. I mean, Daniel Blake was amazing. I cried buckets in the cinema. It was fantastic. And I think you should do one set in Devon with like some 40-odd-year-old woman who's going through struggles. And I think there's something that hasn't been touched yet by the movie business. And I think you should do one set in yet another organisation that rules by fear and passive aggression and marginalised members of society. And it should be like Blake, but at Slimming World. I think you should do that film, because I could definitely be in that. There's so much that goes on there, and I've always wanted to flip a table when I've put on a pound, and I've never been able to do that in real life. So if you wanted to make that, or if you want to come down to Devon and do a little film at our Lady of the Lido, I don't mind showing a bit of side boob if it's tastefully done. I don't mind. If you're worried about the accent, though, I can play strong northern women because I am a Corrie fan. So just a quick old dish. I'll do one now just to show you my range. Sorry, there's Listen to me, lady. I've ran this pub on me Todd for flaming years. Yeah, that was Bet Lynch. She did go a bit West Country then, but obviously she's buggered off to Devon in the programme, so I'll put that in. I can also play older women. Here we go. This is Hilda Ogden. What does my lipstick taste of? Woman, Stanley, woman. There you go. See, showing off my range. I don't know if that's got me any jobs, but
well done, Susie.
Thank you. I've got quite the range. Well, I can dance.
I'll just check if Ken. We've got to persuade Ken to do another film first.
Your emotion. And I'm sorry. That was my despair. Did you get that?
Yeah. Okay. We're running over, so I don't want Ken to. We don't want to overdo it. Susie, stop it now. Come on. Okay, so thank you, Ken.
I'm very impressed, Crispin. I'm overwhelmed with talent, really, on all fronts. So it's difficult to know, when there's so much ability untapped. I'll be spoiled for choice, won't I?
Well, we've got to keep people laughing and entertained during the lockdown. That's what this is all about, really. So, it's really sad because we've run over, and I could carry on talking, but I know you're a busy man and you need to do other things. So I will just say thank you so much for coming on. We're going to end the show as we do every week with a song from Rob Johnson, who's been doing benefits for the left for years.
Okay, Crispin, just before we go, can I just say one last thing?
Yeah.
Before you introduce the song, which I'm sure we'll all enjoy, but we've got to keep our spirits going when they seem dark days, and dark days not only for the virus, not only for the terrible racism we've seen this week, given the defeat in December. But the big ideas that we discovered in the last 3 years, we've really got to hang on to, and that Jeremy and John have left us with. Well, I hope they haven't left us, but the ideas are there. So it's really important that we hang on to those, and we keep that sense of optimism, because with that, if that's what they've got to kill, and they haven't killed it yet. So thanks for the show, Crispin, and say hello to your dad for us.
Oh, sure, yeah. And once again, thank you for coming on, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll lead you out with a song, and I'll just get Rob to. Rob, are you there?
Hello, hi mate.
So we're going to lead out with a song for Ken, and I'll just put that on now, and then because the quality is not good if it's done live, it just doesn't work.
No.
There you go.
Send us in your lockdown jokes and stories. Something cheerful, upbeat, warm and quirky. Having trouble coping with the children? OMG, look at my haircut. She only had one mother, and her mother had to go to work. Though her mother had breathing problems, management made her work out on the platforms. Without protection, collecting tickets at Victoria Station, where her mother was coughed at and spat on. So she died a fortnight later. Lockdown jokes and stories. Lockdown jokes and stories. How many Daily Mail journalists does it take to make a hero? They only had one father, and their father had to drive the bus. They said their father was proud and loving. Ventilators could not save him. She only had one lifetime, spent a lifetime teaching children. Head said that she was gifted. She would be greatly missed by all. Lockdown jokes and stories. Lockdown jokes and stories. How many Daily Mail journalists does it take to make a hero? Here's the joke. Dominic in lockdown. How he thinks he can do anything he wants to, so he does. How he thinks because he might have symptoms, he should drive from London to Durham and back again. His chums all say, well done, Dominic. After all, he's not part of the herd. He isn't sacked and he don't say sorry, because he's part of a government getting away with murder. Lockdown jokes and stories. Lockdown jokes and stories. How many Daily Mail journalists does it take to make one hero? Lockdown jokes and stories.
Nice one, Rob. You're back on the. You're a bit angry again. The anger's come up again.
The anger surface, yeah. And I'd like to say the three people in that song: Benny Mujanji, Melvyn Kennedy, Louis Raja Kumari, Black BAME people, and Black Lives Matter. Not just in America, but here. You got a Tory government that isn't going to release a report about why. It's BAME colleagues who have been taking their biggest casualty hits. So I'd do that. You know, can't help but be angry, can you? You can't help but be angry.
No, well, yeah, well, it's not an easy world to be in, but we have to keep together. And thank you again for writing another song, a new song, every week, every 3 days. You're doing it.
Do your best.
And thank you, Ken, again for coming on.
What a great show! Yes.
What we do now, Ken, is we unmute everyone, and then everyone can say whatever they like to everyone else. And normally, what comes up in this is people start singing, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn." I don't know why, but it tends to happen. We did have Rebecca Long Bailey once, and I think Rob, you started off on the Internationale once.
Yeah.
So
the old favourite.
So I'm going to unmute everyone for half a minute. Thank you everyone for coming on. Sorry we missed the Labour leaks update, but we were running late. And the other thing I've got to say is, on Saturday we're going to do a show about food poverty, and Jeremy Corbyn has agreed to come and speak on the show. So we can really focus on that. Maybe the party aren't doing enough. Maybe Jeremy Corbyn can push that further. So I'm going to unmute everyone now, and bye-bye for now.
Bye.
At last is the age of cant. Away with monkish superstitions. Our masses arise.
I can hear Rob.
Conditions just to win the prize. So, comrades, and the last fight left us face the international unites the human race.
Thank you, Crispin. Thanks, Ken. Crispin. Thank you. Brilliant.
Bye-bye, Wendy and Brian.
Bye.
Goodbye.